Welcome in to Perfect Games Weekly College Baseball Recap. This is the JUCO edition. I'm your host, Brian Sakowski, joined as always by my JUCO partner in crime, Colton Olinger. Colt, coming down the wire here, man. Coming down the stretch.
Oh yeah, we're getting into these last 2 or 3 weeks, getting ready to figure out some seedings for these regionals and see who's going to punch a ticket to Grand Junction. Getting exciting.
Yeah, we got some clubs wrapping up, conference championships and the like, and not every region does things the same as other regions as far as determining who's gonna end up being in the tournament, blah, 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 blah. But either way, we are going to find out a lot in the next couple weeks. With that being said, let's turn our attention right to this week's top 25. At the top four spots have remained the same this week. That's Walter State at 1. They're 49-3. Looks like they will be our first club to 50 wins this year, which is not altogether unsurprising for them. They do that pretty regularly. Wabash Valley in Illinois right behind them at number 2. They're 37-3. Crowder in Missouri had their 30-game winning streak snapped, but still 41-5, number 3 in the country. Not a bad place to be in. And LSU Eunice right there at number 4, still holding down the number 1 in the NJCAA D2 spot for us. They're 41-4. It starts to get a little different after number 4. Eastern Oklahoma State back up a couple spots this week to number 5. They're 40-3. We're going to take it over to Colt, who's going to tell us a little bit more about EOSC.
Yeah, that 40-3 record, not all that surprising when you kind of take a deep dive into some of these stats here. We've got 8 guys that, have played 30 or more games for this club, and all of them are hitting over 330. You got, Cole Broughton hitting 355. And like I said, just a deep lineup all the way up and down. When you think about, your 8 guys playing regularly every day in the field and whatnot, and you can count on all of them to hit over 330. There's a lot to like there with that. And then you turn it over to the mound and you've got David Sandlin, Andrew Walling, Christian McGowan, all guys that have run over 50 innings for this club, all striking out more than 14 per 9. So you got the making of a real 3 horses that are on the mound for them that can take them deep into games and are really going to get things done for them. They're on the mound, so no surprise there that start and them staying hot there.
And it's you'll find all 3 of those big arms from EOSC. They will be on the draft board that we released actually today. You can go read that at perfectgame.org right now. You will find all 3 of those guys on there in various spots. Back to the list. Number 6, Cowley out of Kansas. That is the highest spot for them this year at number 6. Number 7, Florence Darlington, South Carolina club that has just risen all year. That's another season high spot for them there at number 7. San Jac back up a couple spots to number 8 this week. Central Arizona down 3 spots from number 6 to number 9. And a newcomer to the top 10, a club we've been watching all season, a club we had high expectations for before the spring. Lansing CC out of Michigan is 28-1. They have cracked the top 10 this week for the first time with no signs of slowing down. Colt, how are they doing it?
Well, it's an outscoring opponents there at 249-93. So, kind of a lot of convincing wins there for Lansing. Robert Caven with 10 jacks. He's splitting time behind the plate with Hunter Lay, who's hitting, 382. So a lot of production up and down the lineup. But, the 2 guys behind the plate really getting it done for him with a lot of production. And then on the mound, you got Benjamin Reif, who's like 25 innings for him, going 4-0, striking out over 12 per 9 with a 1.4 ERA for them. And then fellow freshman George Ferguson, also 4-0 with 18 innings and only allowed the 1 run on the season there. So, kind of goes about it maybe a little bit differently, not as missing as many bats, but really going to attack hitters and he's keeping the ball off the barrel and getting outs for him. So doing a great job there for Lansing.
We had talked to Coach Kerr preseason there, was excited about the club, was excited about the pitching, was excited about the power. I don't know if he saw 28-1 over the first 29 games before the season, but I'm sure he'll take it. Shouts out to Lansing. That's a fantastic season so far, and we're looking forward to watching them continue on. A couple other notes throughout the top 25, a couple other big risers. Catawba Valley out of North Carolina is up 5 spots this week. They are number 17 overall with a record of 36-8. Temple out of Texas rejoins the rankings this week. They are our highest ranked newcomer at number 18. They are 34-9, continuing to play well in Texas. And we welcome Hagerstown out of Maryland into the top 25 this week at number 25 overall. And speaking of Hagerstown, got to talk about Region 20 a little bit. It's a small region in D1. There are 3 clubs. Potomac State, ranked. Hagerstown, ranked. And Hartford, who has been ranked and is currently in the also considered others receiving votes category of the list. All 3 of that one region, really good clubs. That's just an interesting little note to make. I'm not going to go any deeper than that, but just a fascinating little tidbit as far as like, that's one region, man, and all 3 of them are really, really good. But moving on, we are going to transition a little bit into talking about Pitcher of the Year candidates, which we did last week. We talked about some Player of the Year guys, and this week we're going to turn our attention to pitchers. Next week in this section, we will talk about draft guys from JUCO. But anyways, Colt, I'm going to start. Hard to not take a look at what Brandon Schaefer's done at Potomac State, guy who's 6-0. He's got 38 innings on the season. He's leading the country in ERA with a 0.24 in those 38 innings to go along with 65 strikeouts. Hard not to be in love with those numbers there from Schaefer at Potomac State. Colt, leading the way out of Wabash. Who's their ace?
Oh yeah, it's you got Jose Cabrera Jr. on the mound there, and you go down those stats, and right behind Schaefer there in ERA is going to be Cabrera. With a 1.12 ERA, he's 7-0 in his 8 starts, logging 48 innings, a little over 48 innings with 75 Ks. So a lot to like there from Cabrera, and right there behind Schaefer in ERA. So definitely got to keep an eye on when it comes to this category.
Back out to the western part of the country, Central Arizona, longtime number 1 this year. Their ace, Matt Olson, a third-year guy who we've gotten a couple looks at this spring. He's been performing exactly sort of what we expected him to. It's hard to expect absolute dominance, but that was sort of the expectation for Olson heading into 2021, and he's certainly responded. He's 9-0 in 12 games started, 2 complete games, 1.42 ERA, 92 strikeouts in 63 and a third innings. That's good for 13 strikeouts per 9. Olson's doing exactly what Central Arizona needed him to do, and him and Hunter Omelette out there are 2 really big-time starters to lead the way for that club.
Yeah, back here in the Deep South, we got Landon Gartman at Pearl River, who kind of stepped into that ace role for them when they lost Leaf Moore there at the beginning of the year. And Gartman's kind of, stepped into that role really, really well for him, obviously, going 8-0 in his 10 starts with 2 complete games for them, 70 Ks on the season, good for 11 Ks per 9. And, kind of a guy when you look at these stats for the Division II stuff, the guy that pops up on multiple leaderboards. So really getting it done in multiple ways there for Pearl River with a 1.87 ERA and stepping into a big role for Pearl River there as they wrap up the Mississippi conference this last week.
And as I teased a little bit ago, we're going to talk about draft guys on next week's show. Logan Henderson out of Mclennan, definitely one of those names, but he's also in the Pitcher of the Year discussion as well because he's been so dominant. 55 innings, 94 strikeouts in those 55 innings with a whip of 0.87. Not an easy feat, especially in that region that Mclennan plays in, especially in Texas in general. Either way, fantastic year for Henderson. He's having a good year. He's a guy who's going to get draft heat as we continue to move towards July. But either way, a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and maybe one of the more crazy stats we have in this week's category, Drew Harlow at Patrick Henry. So far, almost 17 Ks per 9. He's racked up 78 strikeouts in his 42 innings, only 15 walks, and it's good for a 0.97 whip with a 2.13 ERA. So some high octane stuff there, missing barrels, punching guys out, kind of left and right there for Patrick Henry's Drew Harlow.
And like we said last week, that's just a handful of the names. We could talk for 20, 25, 30 names on either hitters and pitchers, but we just don't have that kind of time, and no one wants to watch us do that anyways. So with that being said, that's your JUCO Weekly Update. For Colt, I'm Brian. We'll talk to you next week.